new temporary locations, and welcome to the board meeting for the East Bay Wildfire Coalition of Governments. And we do have a remote participant, which we'll get to in a second. I just want to say welcome to everybody finding your way to the city of Berkeley. Normally we meet at the city of El Cerrito. We will going back there to the next meeting. I know they've been doing some work in Cambridge, so thanks for coming here. And we usually have a big crowd, not big, we have a much larger crowd. Also, like coming also because so we have I was worried if we were going to get a big crowd here because we have a tighter room. But thanks, and Robert, thanks for working hard with different agencies, and in this case Berkeley, to get the location. So roll call. Who does the roll call? Yes, you can do the roll because we don't have the city list here.
Sure. Alameda County is not here.
Supervisor said she will be here so sometime soon.
Contra Costa County
Here.
City of Berkeley
Here.
City of El Cerrito
Here.
City of Oakland
Here.
City of Pinole
Here.
City of Richmond
Here.
City of Hercules
Here.
And you are at a posted location, Chris, so you are legally participating.
Thank you.
Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District.
Kensington Community Service District.
New name, okay.
Right, yeah, we're here.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
And I do want to welcome our newest member of the Wildfire Coalition. And so the new name is, it's not Police Protection and Community Services District, it's just
Kensington Community Service
District. Their fire district and their community services police district merged recently, last year.
as of November.
So this is great. They have their own fire agency, which is covered by the city of El Cerrito, actually, but their own fire district. And so Rodney Paul was designated as a member. So Rodney, good to have you.
Thanks, happy to be here.
Good that you're here. So with that, and I see I just got a text from supervisors parking. Okay, I was just starting. Great. So first would be minutes of our meeting of October 22nd. It's been a while since we've met. There's a lot of, some of it had to do with the holidays, another had to do with location, so we are back on schedule. Any questions from any of the board members on the minutes? Or okay. All right. I will now go to, we have a motion, a second for the minutes. Let me ask for public comment on the minutes. Is there any public comment on the minutes? And Robert, do we have other people also on Zoom other than Chris Kelly?
Yes, we have 20 members of the public on
Great.
Zoom.
Okay, so making sure hopefully all 20 can hear us, and 20 people who normally would come in person would participate by Zoom. Thanks. Any comments on the minutes? Public comment? All right, we have a motion in a second. All in favor? Aye. And it's Chris?
Aye.
You need to register officially. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. One abstention. All right. Item 4 is our financial report, our dues schedule. And attached here is the dues schedule that we had previously approved in the package, and Kensington is new and not on here and would be similar to El Cerrito. This is the smallest amount, and so Rodney, that's the 3,000. I think we let the general manager know about the $2,000. So just to note, we will make sure that's clear going forward. I did get a report from our fire district. And the monies that we have are follows. We have $25,000 which were received from the county. We have $3,250 which was received from the city of Richmond. We have $6,000 from El Cerrito, so I don't know if that's 2 years of dues. It's not on the chart that I have, but it's not. But
I
they've
think
received
it
it.
might have been doubled.
They have been okay. So the email I have says that we have 6,000 from them. It's not reflected here, but we received 6,000 from El Cerrito. The Oakland Fire Safety Council, we have 10,000. And then the East Bay Wildfire Coalition Elizabeth Stage, that was the contribution of 1,560. Because the folks that are involved with the fire safety council, were there other amounts that the fire safety council had? Hey, Robert.
And also Chief Brochard is on, he's able to give a presentation
Okay.
as well.
Off Chief Brochard, and I just want to acknowledge Chief Brochard is retiring soon. We will have an interim and then be doing a search. So I just want to acknowledge Chief Brochard, your efforts with our district and with wildfire prevention. Chief, did you want to make comments about the finance, what you're holding? I know some of this was we've set up finally an account through the auditor's office, a separate account for this coalition.
Yeah, and good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well, and thank you for your comments, Supervisor Joya. So I think Supervisor Joya covered the details of the report. This is our first report that we've published. So if the coalition, the board here, would like to see something else, please just let us know. The auditor's office did in the last month get the account or the fund set up. And on the report that I provided, we have a few transactions, not many. And to answer your question, my understanding for El Cerrito is that is 2 fiscal years of dues that they paid. So that $6,000 will be reflected in the next report, but it's not in the account as of yet. It's working its way through the county system. So at present, there's a balance of just over $50,000, $50,610. And the only
Plus the 6,000 from El Cerrito will shortly be in there, correct?
Correct. So if you want to call it 56,610, that would be accurate. And as of today, we've only received dues from Contra Costa County, El Cerrito, and Richmond. We haven't received dues from any other organization. Moving forward, likely it'll be our finance chief or Chief Bachman who can provide this report, but we will strive to get the report out to Robert or whoever you tell us to get it to, so it can be included in the agenda packet. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Just to clarify, we did not start charging the dues officially until the fiscal year 26-27 year, which would be July 1 of 2026 to June 30th of 2020. I'm sorry, July 1st, 2025 to June, yes, excuse me, 2025-26 fiscal year. So let me just ask for those who are here representing agencies, we can make sure emails were sent out, but I think we were going to produce this in an invoice form or whatever would be easiest for the cities. And if the representatives of the agencies have a thought of the best way, they would follow up in their agency. So like if we can have it in an invoice form to the city, would that be preferable? Berkeley, Oakland.
Yes.
You paid already. So,
Yeah,
yes.
but it took a lot of
Yes,
effort to
right.
find it because it was in a letter format. And so,
Right, we'll do that.
It
Okay.
comes through and it just disappeared twice at least. So.
Yeah, so we'll do that in an invoice form, and what we'll do for maybe to make it easier, we will include 25, 26, and then indicate 26, 27. So that way we can try to get that all done at once.
You know who the communication came from?
It was sent from, it was an email that was sent to me. Yeah, yeah. But we can do we can do another as an invoice. Was it in an invoice form? I think it was an email letter.
Just to add to the chief's comments, I understand. that-
Identify yourself for everybody. Yes, it's one line too.
Don Kaufman, volunteer staff person. See, my
Normally with the Open Fire Safety Council, still.
and Claremont County Conservancy.
Yes.
So my understanding is the city of Oakland has cut their check, even though it probably hasn't been transmitted yet. So that's why.
Okay, and were there any other funds with the
Oakland Fire.
fire safe, right?
No, the monies that you received were the residual funds from when the Oakland Fire Safety Council acted as fiscal agent.
Got it, okay. So we'll just follow up on that, and let me just ask, is there any question on that, any other questions? The due schedule will continue to be the same due schedule we have posted, yes.
I do think we have to reconsider the allocations. I'm a little confused why Richmond would be 335 It looks much larger than El Cerrito and Denver. So I think maybe I don't know what the history is on that, but I think maybe we need to reconsider it.
I know we were trying to make it affordable as much as possible
Yeah.
for folks to start. And it looks like, I mean, yeah, Berkeley. Berkeley's population, you're about,
They're about 125.
and Richmond's about 110. El Cerrito, Hercules, Pinole are all the 20s, 25,000. You're 18, and you know, we could. Oh, I see. What we did is Richmond went up to 5. See, in the next new fiscal year, Richmond was, so there were increases. We started off low, and then in year 2.
Oh.
So on here, Richmond's 3,250 in year 1 and 5,000 in year 2, whereas Pinole and El Cerrito remain at 3. Berkeley was 3,750. That's thanks. We provide. Come on over. You can check either there or there. We're gonna get you on one side. We're just discussing dues, so we're on item 4. Yes.
Forward, yeah, concern.
Yeah,
I was thinking about the 24,000.
20, the 20.
Said 20,000 that comparatively to support this population and wildfire policy. That it is a request from administration that be more comparable to Berkeley followed by Richmond.
So let me start. We're trying to collect the year 1 dues, right? Since we are still in that first fiscal year, and the invoice will cover that. And then the next dues aren't due until July 1. So maybe what we will do is have some discussion, agendize that issue of new dues for 2026 for May. Or when's the next meeting? It's in May. Yeah, we'll agendize that. So today there's no action because the dues for 2025, since we're already approved, just implementing, carrying that out. Okay. So what we will do is make sure that there is the invoices go out to collect the remainder of the 2025-26 dues. What we were saying, supervisors, well, like for the agencies that haven't yet paid, that's most of them. A few have, put in an invoice form and then send it emails. Okay. Let me just ask first, is there any other comments from board members? That includes our remote board member, Chris Kelly. Comments and then John. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, when we discuss it at our main meeting, we should also think about Kensington, which has a very small population. We may want to reduce it below the 3,000 figure. It's actually okay.
Well, that'll be there'll be some staff work to prepare some information, maybe some options. All right, so no action today other than just direction to collect the rest of the funds from fiscal year 2025-26. So item 5, officer elections 2025-26. 6, I appreciated serving in the role as chair. We've talked about running to rotate these positions every year. I am definitely supportive of doing that and will continue to provide our support individually and as an office to the incoming chair and our vice chair, Councilmember Ramachandran, has indicated interest in becoming the chair. So I will make a motion to elevate our Councilmember from Oakland from vice chair to chair. Okay. So is there discussion on that motion? No. Okay. Is there public comment on this motion? Okay, yes, we're gonna, public comment, yes, you are a member of the public,
Right.
though you're sitting across like a volunteer staff or something.
Yeah, one of the responsibilities of the chair is to provide staff. I know that's been an issue.
Yeah.
So I think we need to think about that regularly because we've been understaffed. It's important if we're gonna move forward that we have sufficient staff to do the work that we can all like to do.
Right. I think that's gonna be an issue that will be taken up with the businesses. Yeah. Good. All right, we don't have to do a roll call. I'll just say all in favor. Aye. Chris Kelly. We have to name you.
Aye.
Since you're, okay, great. For vice chair, we've typically done a rotation where Alameda County holds one of the seats and Contra Costa holds the other seat. So that the vice chair would be Contra Costa. I'd like to make a suggestion, and I know we have several people from Contra Costa, all who would be good. I was going to suggest an old council member, Marie Toms, who retired not too long ago as a longtime planner for Contra Costa County and is very familiar with a lot of the issues, I think, in her background that could be helpful. So anyway, that was a suggestion I would make.
I'll second.
Thanks for talking about that. Okay, second. All right, is there any discussion on that motion? Is there any public comment on that motion? All right, all in favor? And by the way, Robert, you're checking online, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Let me just note for people online, if it's not clear, please use the raise hand feature if you want to speak. There's something moving up and down there. I'm not sure what that is. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Chris Kelly?
Aye.
Amy. Okay. Thank you. All right. As to assignments, that's really, as we have no assignments, I think that'll all come up. Sure. And again, we will continue to offer support in the way we can. Yeah. So I will continue to chair this meeting since we did the work and set up the agenda. So and then the next meeting we'll. Okay. All right. Item 6 is a report update on Board of Forestry ruling Zone 0 and current relevant proposed state legislation.
Thank you, Joe.
We have our former chair, council member, who's working with us. So thank you, Susan. Everyone knows Susan McGrath.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot happening. First, in terms of the State Board of Forestry, I believe on April 23rd, they will be making their rulings about state requirements for Zone 0. The buzz is that they will be passing something that will be acceptable statewide. I don't have the details, but April 23rd isn't that far off, so we'll know soon enough. That meeting is on Zoom. If any of you are interested, I can send Robert the information if any of you want to watch that meeting.
Please do.
In terms of legislation, there's a lot of legislation that's been proposed. I believe Robert sent you the matrix that I developed. And hopefully you have the copy with the hot links so that you can read the legislation yourself. I divided it up into subject matters so that it's easy to figure out what's going on. And I think the bills that are most relevant to what our goals are on the second page of the matrix, if you have a hard copy. And that would be SB 894, submitted by Senator Allen, which creates wildfire mitigation financing pools supporting in hardening and defensible space. And also SB 1079, and also AB 1960, submitted by Bennett, which directs wildfire prevention grants to cohesive fire strategy communities. So those are the two bills where there's actually resources, money involved that would be sent out to communities.
You repeat the second one?
Yeah, why don't I give you this? Do you have this?
I do.
Okay, so it's the first one is SB 894. The second one is AB 1960. There's an interesting group that's developed, a nonprofit called Mega Fire Action. And they are a consortium of fire safe councils, something called Fireworks, and the Karuk tribe. And they've all gathered together to support a package of bills in Sacramento. And of this list that I developed, they're supporting SB 894, which is the Wildfire Mitigation Affordability Act, SB 973, the Wildfire County Coordinator Program. Do we have, is Michelle here from Contra Costa County or Crispin?
Michelle normally is, yeah, Michelle's on. Did you want to ask her? Michelle is the wildfire coordinator for Contra Costa County.
Yeah, so this bill emphasizes the importance of the Wildfire County Coordinator position and ensures funding for that position.
Does Alameda County have this wildfire coordinator position? I think they do.
A lot of the obviously after LA, had their wildfires, there was a lot of concern about insurance. And so a lot of these bills touch on rules regulating insurance for victims of wildfire. And we'll see where that goes. Also, the insurance commissioner position is up for re-election. So we need, say, a new direction in terms of how that negotiation with the industry goes.
I thought his term was over. They'll get a new commissioner, right?
Say that again?
The insurance commissioner?
Yes.
Isn't his term over?
Yeah.
And there's an election.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The position is up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Term end of the year, right?
So I think once, maybe at the next meeting, you want to consider endorsing some of this legislation. We have in the past sent letters of support in favor of certain legislation. Obviously, I think if we don't want to endorse everything, that's kind of overkill. But I think we could cherry pick and figure out the ones that are most in sync with our mission and our goals.
Why not endorse everything?
Mhm.
If they're all good bills, why don't we endorse them all?
Well, I think it's up to the board to read the bills and
We
figure
have
out.
provided us stuff. There's some that stand out that we need to do or support now. We didn't plan a presentation on all the bills, right? So, and are there any that Susan, that you think are the highest priority?
Well, the
on
ones that I
here?
mentioned, I think are the most as I said, in sync with our mission.
That's
That's SB 894, which is Ben Allen's bill,
Right.
and AB 1960.
The
Assembly-
wildfire prevention grants.
Yes,
Right.
That's because those are financial,
yes,
fact, they actually do something, yeah.
We can take that up. Right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Those
there's
are the two of the highest priority.
yes, it's a state level.
Yeah.
Also interestingly, US Senator Padilla introduced a bill in the Senate, the Community Protection and Wildfire Resilience Act, that would invest $1 billion annually to empower communities to implement additional science-based methods like home hardening for mitigating wildfire damage by funding new community protection and wildfire resilience plans. Now, Contra Costa County already has, I believe, John, is that correct? You have a plan.
It depends what form it's defined in. Chief Burchard, I mean, we've got several plans. I'm not sure if it's consistent with what's required here.
Sorry, I was typing. What was the question?
Do you have a community protection and wildfire plan for Contra Costa County?
We do. I think it's in need of revision, and I think we've been working on getting some grant
Okay.
funds to do that. And Michelle's shaking her head, so I'm saying the right thing.
I thought that there was a joint plan for Contra Costa County and Alameda County. That
I
was
don't-
being
I'm
worked on.
unaware of that, Chief.
I'll defer to Michelle. I don't think so.
So
Okay.
there is a regional plan, also known as the Regional Priority Plan, that currently is being funded and headed by the Diablo Fire Safe Council and the Fire staff. We do have staff members sitting on that stakeholder and steering committee.
What region and what areas does that cover, Michelle?
Alameda and Contra Costa, sir.
So that is a form that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just real quick though, that's not the CWPP. It's not
No.
the same thing.
Right.
So
It's
it's
a
not the
different-
Community Wildfire Protection Plan. It's a different document altogether.
Also different than the Local Hazard Mitigation Plan, which includes wildfire.
Got it. Yes.
Just and also Jared Hoffman and Jay Obernolte, who are, it's a bipartisan, are in the House, and they will be putting forward a very similar plan that Padilla presented to the Senate. Jelani?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Susan, for all the research and updates. Tagging along to some of the funding that we have been pushing for as a regional body, specifically with the state, and then we'll give it a quick federal update as well. So in your packets, there's a letter that's authored by myself and Chair Joya, that basically was in response to the governor's original funding proposal that was released earlier this year. So there's three primary buckets in which Newsom's original budget proposal had to address wildfires, about $314 million, not a lot. 58 million to local fire prevention grants, mostly vegetation management, 19.6 million to homeowner technical and financial assistance, including support for Zone Zero implementation, and then $15 million for grants in coordination with the Office of Energy Infrastructure Safety. And so our parallel sister body, which is a little bigger and a little less formal, is Senator Grayson's East Bay Wildfire Corridor. So I attend those meetings on a quarterly basis, I believe. And it's a lot of folks on the other side of the tunnel, but similar goals. Senator Grayson is very involved in some of these funding pushes. So he and his staff have asked for not just their district ask, but us as well. He works closely with our Senator Jesse Arreguín as well. So we took what was originally in the governor's proposal and kind of consolidated what we believe our priorities have been. Townsend, which is the official lobbyist for the city of Oakland and Berkeley, worked closely with us to their pro bono supporting this corridor, our coalition as well. So we came up with this letter with two specific proposals. The ones that we know is already out there, big in the governor's proposal, and we know will get funded by Wildfire, is vegetation management going through fire departments to city. We know those grants have been awarded and we hope we keep getting them as a region. So the two areas this focuses on is homeowner grants specifically for home hardening with the focus on low income residents of high wildfire zones, as well as an education campaign, which of course our region is focusing on. And the plus that we have added to the education campaign is saying, well, we have also already started this process by working on a proposal with a consultant, but to amplify our efforts to get people to voluntarily adopt Zone 0, we need a lot more. Our proposal isn't focused on, we list Zone 0 quite extensively in the budget proposals, but it's including but not limited to Zone 0, because we know that when the regulations come down later this week, potentially, it may not be as comprehensive as this body has stated in our advocacy letters as we want. So the goal is voluntary adoption for defensible space and home hardening, not only compliance with the state regulations, because that just might be a lot more mellow than we would like, but also not inclusive of all of the actual zones that we would consider high wildfire. And by that, I mean, the city of Oakland, for example, when the new maps came out, it cut out a lot of what we know is the high wildfire risk zones in Oakland. So we define as a city, and we pass this through legislation, our own maps, which not all the state regulations that come down will affect it, but because we still define our WUI zones as such, we want to make sure that we're focusing our resources on it. So all in all, the goal of these funding asks is to ask for educational resources and homeowner grants to voluntarily buy into programs, including but not limited to Zone 0. So this letter has been delivered to all of our representatives, Senators Grayson Arreguin, Assemblymember Wicks, Rebecca Barkhan, and a couple of others in progress. We're hoping that, and so the feedback from some of the staff has been, thank you. We are, as the May revise comes out, we will be very seriously considering regional requests. So this is great and on our radar, and we will consider the East Bay Wildfire Coalition as a significant voice of several governments in this area forward. And one of the big topics of conversation that I've had with state lawmakers as well as federal lawmakers has been, there's a lot of, rightfully so, focus on supporting wildfire issues in LA, in other parts of California, but the East Bay has some of the most population dense urban wildfire zones, which requires your support. We do not want another 1991. We do not want to be in a situation, so we need the proactive support now, given how population dense we are, and in a lot of our cities, how few ingress egress routes there are. So I think this has definitely struck a chord with some of these. We've had many conversations and hoping that we'll get some regional funding out of this. And then the second thing is on the legislative front. Susan has forwarded your matrix this morning to Niccolo, who has his own matrix, but wants to, there's some similar bills, there's some not, but he will incorporate everything that you've proposed. And we're starting, and next week, they're going to start, the legislature will start scheduling hearings on these various bills. So as the hearings progress, we'll have an idea of which of these bills is likely to have some traction, which are open to amendments and have some vibrant discussion, and which have a little less weight to them. We will be organizing another Sacramento Advocacy Day, Wednesdays, potentially in the end of April or early May. If you are interested in attending as a legislator representing any of our cities, please let me know and we'll try to.
We'll talk about David.
So what?
Did you want to summarize a little bit since you were up there? Anything else you want to, summarize from your legislative day?
Yeah, So last year, Susan and I went to Sacramento and did some advocacy pushes from those that were in progress. Last year, I think 6 out of 8 of which did end up passing, so that's some good news. Last week I was in DC and met with Senator Milvia and we discussed the Fix Our Forest Act, which is really exciting because it's bipartisan legislation. Last year, there was a very promising, our other Senator Schiff had authored the Firewall Act, which was homeowner grants for low-income households and hotels. That unfortunately did not pass, but we're hoping that it at least gathered momentum to get bipartisan legislation on the issue of wildfires. So Senator Padilla's staff indicated, and he indicated that I think there's a lot more momentum behind Fix Our Forests this year. And they love regional asks for funding and support rather than just cities going up there to either Sacramento or DC. So a lot of excitement about this. And Grayson's quarterly working group, it's a little more informal, not quite like ours. They're excited to coordinate with us and they have all of our budget asks as well.
So if I could just say, this is just a photo, a snapshot in time.
Right.
These are just bills that have been proposed and they're next month, we'll have a little bit more information and it'll be updated. So, and it takes a while. It's in process. It's a long process. Goes from committee to committee to committee. And of course, the budget ultimately will dictate what happens.
And I think we can schedule for the next meeting a few of the bills that have some weight to it, that seem like they have hearings scheduled, that we as a coalition want to zoom in on support. I did want to draw your attention to just one that we just passed last week in Open City Council, a resolution in support of, and that's SB 959, which is relatively straightforward, but can have a big impact for school districts. So it's basically extending the authority for law enforcement officials to call a emergency school closure day without losing state funding. It's adding fire departments' ability to call out that need for an emergency closure day in addition to police forces.
So they would still get their ADA dollars. I think I heard about, so that's not on the list here, SB 959. SB 959, correct?
Yeah, and we will forward a template from Grayson's office for letters of support. They're very actively seeking letters. If councils want to make a resolution, that's great too, which is what we did, but letters itself would be greatly helpful, and we'll provide that.
Wasn't there a bill requiring school districts to develop evacuation plans for all of their schools? There was something, and I think I forwarded that to Robert for us to write a letter of support. That seems to be a critical thing to me.
Right now, I have 3 bills that we potentially could just take some, we could write a letter on SB 959, that you just mentioned, SB 894 and AB 1960. So we will take it later. We'll raise it.
Yeah.
Look, I actually had a question just briefly on the action the state Board of Forestry is going to take. What's the jurisdiction? Who would be required to comply with their regulations? Different than a state law. So
local responsibility areas, which I believe we are all every jurisdiction represented on this board is in a local responsibility area. And what they are going to propose would be the minimum. And every jurisdiction has the authority to fiddle with that and make it stricter if they so choose.
So like Berkeley has passed some zone 0 laws.
Right.
Your laws presumably would apply if they're inconsistent with what the state Board of Forestry requires, right?
Yes.
So let me ask, Michelle, have you followed this with regard to our jurisdictions that you're at least involved with in Contra Costa?
I have, and I defer to the badged members of service to talk about jurisdictional requirements and adherence to regulations. But my understanding, like for the local responsibility area, the local AHJ or authority having jurisdiction can adopt a more stringent rule than the state, but the state provides the minimum. I defer to Chief Burchard for expansion if I got that wrong.
No, you got that right, Michelle, and we brought this item to our board through the adoption process. The fire district's a little bit different than, say, the city of Oakland. The city of Oakland is its own geographic area. The fire district covers 12 to 13 cities, so it's a joint effort, and we didn't have at the time data to refute the state map. So we're waiting to see where all this lands with Zone 0 and some of the regulations, and then move on from there. But the process was fairly quick, and for a multi-jurisdictional agency like ourselves, it takes longer to promulgate those ordinances and those changes because of the relationship between the city, the land use planning agency, if you will, and the fire district.
The question I have is does the passage of these regulations serve as the force of law to be required even without the adoption by a local agency, either the city for another city or an incorporated area for the county? In other words, these would apply and have them and would need to be implemented and enforced even if a local agency doesn't adopt them. Is that Susan's saying yes? Chief, you're
yeah, if you recall, we were all, whether you were a city or a special district or a county, based on the maps that the state put out, we were compelled by law to adopt those maps, no questions asked, no ability to make them any less stringent by a certain date. So I would say yes, those rules will now apply because those maps have been adopted. Now, in the case of, say, Oakland, I guess, they have made their adoption more restrictive than what the state provided. But for Contra Costa County, we adopted the state's map. So that would be the rule moving forward unless we increased the areas to be included, which we have not done yet.
This would apply in a residential district as well as commercial district. It applies to all development.
To the very high
Right.
hazard areas,
Well,
whether they're residential or commercial.
right. Okay. Like, for example, because in some of these areas, there are commercial properties, they would be subject to. In fact, Rodney, you know, last night we had a town hall meeting in Kensington about the work we're going to do on the library, $5 million worth of work. The question was, are you going to enforce Zone 0 around the Kensington Library as part of your work? And it's definitely required to. So like in that example, just trying to bring it down to the level we all deal with. Like we have a library in an area and we're gonna do some improvements, and if this, we may want to do that whether or not it's passed, but is being able to apply Zone 0 requirements to that.
Because, for example, in Oakland, there are many schools.
Right.
We have one too, right on that movie.
And Berkeley has one as well.
Right. Okay. Other questions? Yes, Supervisor.
Thank you, Councilmember Ramachandran and Susan for all of this work on our potential legislative platform. I just wanted to mention that the county's lobbyist is Full Strategies. I'm actually meeting with them tomorrow, so this is really helpful information. And I'm not sure how many schools are in AC fire departments and incorporated areas in the wildfire zones that would like the template letter, council members, so that we can potentially also weigh in if possible. But I'll take this list to our lobbyists as well so we can track it and want to make sure we're all related. Secondly, I don't know if this has been mentioned already, but SPUR did a report on cross-jurisdictional governance for wildfire mitigation.
Yes, I participated in that.
Oh,
I was on the panel.
Okay, great. Yeah, so really great to hear about the collaboration with Senator Grayson and glad you participated in
John
this.
was there too.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know that we are mentioned in that, and it's good to see like really concrete
Are
recommendations.
there materials from that we can?
There's a report. I think we printed.
Yeah.
There's a report.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
printed
It's
to Robert,
online.
so
Got it.
yeah,
It's very heartening to see an organization like Spur start thinking about
Mhm.
these issues in relationship to planning. Spur is really a planning organization.
Right.
So, yeah,
And there's 5
It's exciting for me.
recommendations. Yeah, Robert, if you don't mind sending it to our list, or I can pop it into the email that's going around. It's a good read.
I will. Thank you, Supervisor. And just for the benefit of the viewing public now, the Spur report is prominently posted on our website, the East
There
Bay
we go.
Wildfire Coalition. Thank you.
And it used to stand for San Francisco Bay Area Planning and Urban Research Association. That's what the name's for, but they do a lot of Bay Area.
incidentally, Spur is also will be doing a candidate forum on insurance commissioner candidates coming up. And I can send the information to Robert to disseminate.
All right, really good report. Yes.
Just to add on to what we've been saying about Spur, what's significant about that report is they highlighted 2 organizations in the whole Northern California area that is focused on wildfire preservation. One is the Marin County organization, but the other one is this organization. So they are recognizing the importance of a regional approach to wildfire prevention. And if you haven't had a chance to look at the report, it's worthwhile. And I think there's a video of the meeting that Susan and I were saying.
Okay. Thank you.
Could you share it with?
It's on the website. It's on the
We
website.
posted the report on our website, and we can maybe post the link to the meeting too. Great. Other comments from board members on any of this before I discuss the motion on the legislation? And I'm sure in May we'll be getting an update on the whole forestry action as well. And that includes Chris, any from you as well? Always want to include you remotely. All right, so based on the discussion, sounds like there'll be a more detailed presentation on some legislation at the next meeting, but we have an opportunity to maybe send a letter in on 3 bills. Thank you for bringing SB 959 to our attention. I'd heard something about that, and this is great because it would have a lot of schools struggle with this issue. And then SB, the other 2 that you talked about, Susan, SB 894 and AB 1960. 894, which is the wildfire mitigation financing tools, and AB 1960, directing wildfire prevention grants to focus on fire strategy. So if there's interest, is there a motion to send a letter from our collective group on support of those 3 bills? Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any and then who you, Chris? Chris? I don't see Chris on.
Chris had to jump off at 9:45.
Oh, got it. Okay, so we'll note she's no longer participating in the vote on that.
Yes.
All right. Item 7 is direction on potential contractors to lead public information campaign communication strategies. We've talked about this at several meetings, and so who's presenting on this, Don? I think you are. Sorry. We get these things to think, don't we? All right.
Work this out.
All right, you're on.
By way of introduction, for those of you who don't know, I'm John Kaufman. I've been acting as a volunteer staff member, and I was a co-founder of this organization. We started working on this probably 4 years ago now, at least. This is a very exciting program, and I'm so glad we're moving forward with it. As you recall, last year this organization approved spending $50,000 to plan, budget, and raise funds to inform and educate the residents of the west side of the East Bay Hills about how they can make their homes safer through home hardening, defensible space, and zone zero. what is significant about that is that this organization has been hearing from other people since its founding. But now we are talking about moving into an action phase where we're actually going to be moving into the community with information and helping them move forward to prevent wildfires, which is the purpose we were founded to do. So pursuant to that approval last year, Susan Wengraf and I have been interviewing consultants that we could retain to move that program forward. And we interviewed 4 firms, 3 of them submitted proposals. The one that we thought was best and that we're presenting to you today is one from Mercury Communications and the Message Department. And I'd like to allow them to make the presentation to you. But let me back up a little bit and give you the full picture. The original intent of that $50,000 was for planning, for developing a communications plan, and to use some of that money to write proposals and secure funding, not only from the state, which is what we all think about, but also from private foundations and insurance companies and so forth. That was our original thought when we developed this proposal last year. In presenting the proposal to your officers and talking about it more, we came to the conclusion that we needed to move beyond simply planning and budgeting and putting together a proposal. And thank Janani especially for making that suggestion, that we move into developing messages and testing them so that we can really, when we get money, we can just move forward with action and not just talk. So that's what we concluded, and we've asked our consultants that are running consultants to consider revising their thinking so that we can respond to the need to move forward as quickly as possible. So I want to introduce our consultants and ask them to talk about that point. And Noah, you're here. I don't know if your partner's coming yet, but
yeah, he'll be here in like 5 minutes as Amtrak got delayed.
yeah. So do you want to start?
Yeah, give me background over here.
Sure.
You can sit here. That way you can see it on the camera. And
Sure. He's on speaker, so I'm gonna have him so you can hear.
Oh, okay.
He'll be here in like 5 minutes.
Train was delayed from Sacramento.
Yeah, there was like usually a bomb train, which apparently is not as bad as it sounds.
yeah.
It's like there was a bomb train, and I was like,
And well, to give you a also, Councilmember Matanga, did you want to add anything further? I think you had some great suggestions to sort of fine tune the proposal. Did you want to add anything further before the consultant speaks?
I'll probably wait till
Okay,
after,
okay,
but
good.
I appreciate the willingness to rethink a little. I think as a new agency with barely $50,000 in our pocket, we want to be able to come out with some kind of concrete product to show we're action oriented as well as a planning body. So I'm excited to hear slightly revised proposal.
Great.
Good. Go on.
cool. Derek, can you hear us? Okay.
We do. Next item, until they join us.
The next item, I mean, on future meetings and agenda items, if you want, we could do that and come back. Okay.
Sure.
All right, so let's go on future meetings and agenda items. There will be presentation on legislation, more specifically, including the Department of Forestry actions. I assume there will also be a report on, if we go forward today, on the direction and update. Robert, you're noting this, so we will put this down and then pass it along to our new chair. But I think she's taking detailed notes herself. So the update, I think, on the progress of this new communications plan that we will be approving today, right? I think get updates on that. So let me go down, starting on other kinds of items to put on the agenda. One item that I was going to just gets into the weeds too much, but we're working with Kensington on a program on red flag days having no parking, and working with the traffic engineer, the fire district, the law enforcement group implementing. And it's a practice that I know Renda's done successfully. I don't know if other agencies here have done, and whether it worth sort of having some discussion about that strategy that we're holding here for the fire team.
Yeah.
So I'll put, maybe it's red flag day, no parking, and there's a lot of operational issues involved with that. What's the recommendation? What just how you designate it, how you enforce it? So yes, Lisa.
We do it else reading.
Yeah.
So
So you can add, maybe you can share your experiences on that. A practice that happens. The other items that want to suggest the officers as they set the agenda. Yes, I am.
So the city of Richmond is going to have an evacuation drill on May 30th. I suggest we have a presentation before and one after with evaluation. Before obviously will be shorter. It'd be good idea, I think, to share the concerns of evacuation, what we're looking forward and all the aspects of it. And then afterwards, evaluating maybe the warning system and everything else. That's one item I suggest we include in the next meeting. In general, I have some suggestions to include throughout the year. Can I share them too?
Sure.
Number one, it'd be nice to know what our fire departments do. How do they upgrade, I don't know, equipment, plan, whatever. Once a year, if you could get from maybe representative from Contra Costa fire departments and also Alameda fire departments, they share it with each other, and we would like to know what's going on with our fire department.
So let me ask you something, because I know there's many fire agents here and they report to their boards and or are responsible for that. I mean, we wanted to know a summary, but would the operational aspects of their summary really go to their respective boards? I mean, I'm not sure I'm as interested in hearing about what Alex Fire is doing.
But the general overview, how they see things, shortcomings.
Right.
Proposal in terms of policies, just build that bridge.
Right.
And number two is.
Noting Robert's noting this down.
Number two, sometime throughout the year, it'd be nice to ask Caltrans to have a presentation on the county-wide evacuation.
Caltrans is here, their vegetation person is here.
Not
Kennedy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Caltrans just allocated $500,000, I believe, to a county-wide evacuation plan. Or a study, evacuation is study, sorry.
How does that relate to ours? I don't know, because Caltrans doesn't control our evacuation. I want to be really clear. They don't control our evacuations.
It's a study, they don't control anything, but it'd be nice to know about their plan.
Right.
They
Maybe,
just did the RFP.
maybe it would be good. We have it as a presentation by Caltrans
That's
on, but not only this, on several items that are relevant for us. Because, this
on
like
their
we,
vegetation too.
Oh,
If
yeah,
you already
right.
Received that, but it'd be nice
Right.
to have one.
because like we had East Bay Mud, we had the Park District, we had PG&E. It'd be nice to maybe have Caltrans present on issues that are relevant for us in wildfire prevention, including vegetation, including this evacuation funding and things like that.
Yeah,
So that could broader, like a broad presentation from Caltrans on all the relevant wildfire prevention.
so one under vegetation management, the other.
My
one on
suggestion-
Evacuation is the.
My suggestion is Caltrans makes one presentation with all these subject matters, just like East Bay Mud and East Bay Regional Park District did one presentation with all their various issues and not separate days. In other words, one day that they come and we give a major presentation to cover all the items we mentioned.
With all due respect, there are different departments, the consultant does this, totally irrelevant.
We'll get them all,
I suggest
well,
you-
we'll leave it
but
to the
you
chair.
have higher rank, you're the boss for the.
No, but I mean, I think we would want, we could work to get all of them here that are relevant.
Maybe it doesn't work
Okay,
that way.
all right. I know you used to work at Caltrans, so you may, but yeah.
I think too, I mean, our goal is like ongoing, you know,
Yeah.
so we want to just continue to foster relationships. So, you know, if we start with like one overview and then have follow-up, you know, engagement, that.
Sure. It's just that I'm not sure, and the chair will determine that we have time for Caltrans to make presentations at every meeting because we have lots of issues. And like in the past, we've had agencies come and make a global presentation like East Bay Regional Park District, and they cover multiple subjects.
So we plan to be here for as
Good.
many as we can. Just
Thank
so we
you.
can hear it.
Okay, all right. Okay. So go ahead.
That's all. I have another suggestion, but it'd be too much. I think I'm out
No,
of
put it
order.
out. And all suggestions, put them on the table.
The safety element. So I'm realizing, for example, the city of Richmond's safety element has many flaws in it. We're working on it. I'd like to know how other cities and counties deal with their safety element. Have you
You
looked
have their
into?
general plan,
I'm sorry.
the safety element of the
Right,
general plan.
right. It talks about wildfire, it talks about evacuation. Sometimes it doesn't talk about evacuation. It doesn't, I mean, just one short paragraph. Is it needed? Is it important? I think it'd be nice to have just one discussion, not regularly. Caltrans, just one presentation, that's it. And this one, just one discussion about safety elements. And learn from each other and share the concerns and experiences and improve it.
Thank you. Thanks. We'll go with board members first. What other suggestions or items for agenda? Chris, you have it? Oh, Chris left. Okay. Yes, public comment.
When we first formed this organization, we were planning on having a presentation from Marin Wildfire Authority.
That'd be
Which
awesome.
was
Yeah.
Also a consortium of different jurisdictions. They're extremely proactive.
Yeah.
And doing wonderful work. And I think his name is Mark Brown.
Yes.
He was on the panel with us at the Spur event. And he volunteered to come and do a presentation for us. I remember when we first started, he wasn't available. But I think now if we invited him, he'd be happy to.
Put that down.
And they're doing really very
Yeah.
good work.
Excellent. And we can collaborate.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, but the other agenda item is the dues for 2026-27.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Um,
Identify yourself.
Oh,
We
Elizabeth,
know you.
Elizabeth Page, Oakland
Right.
resident. Particularly interested in the Caltrans issue, specifically the relationship between evacuation and vegetation management along highways. I think the bifurcation of those two functions is a mistake from the residents' perspective. So I'd appreciate at least having those two departments talking together about how, in light of some fires in Oakland, they have become more united.
Thank you. The fire agent. Other public comment on any public comment out with all the many participants out there on agenda items.
There's one behind.
Okay.
I really, my name is Jessie Godfrey. I am a cooperative extension advisor with the University of California Resources, and I wanted to present myself as a potential new resource.
Great.
To all of you.
We'll get
in
your
the room.
contact for all this.
Yeah, and I'd be
Right.
happy to present resources
Yeah.
at some future meeting that are available for the UC network.
That'd be great.
Science extension.
That's great. Yeah. Definitely aware of what you all do. So this is great.
We do have a hand up from a member of the public. Adi Soko. You are up.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. My name is Andy. I'm with the Office of Emergency Management at UC Berkeley. I'd just like to offer a brief perspective from the UC Berkeley Office of Emergency Management. We're currently doing a lot of work around wildfire preparedness and evacuation planning at the campus level, and we are seeing a strong alignment with many of the priorities being discussed here today. We would like to welcome opportunities to stay connected and contribute where helpful particularly as these policies and communication efforts continues to develop. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Great to have you here. Any others online?
No, thank you.
Yes.
So, because there's such concern about evacuation.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe, our meeting in June could be devoted entirely to evacuation.
Awesome.
And we could approach it from different angles and have different agencies, including UC.
Right. Because that involves many agencies,
Yeah.
both from fire and law enforcement. Yeah.
Well, and actually, yes, police are in charge.
Yeah.
And invite folks involved in the SB 959 effort. Our senators, Oregon is a co-sponsor, right? It's Grayson Federal, and as well as on the Assembly side, so we can invite their offices to talk about school-related issues of fast doesn't happen.
Yeah. So Haley, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Excellent suggestion. I second that. And let's do it for evacuation and pre-evacuation, which SB 959 relates to. And one of the agencies that I notice is missing from our evacuation plans for the city of Richmond is Caltrans. Just to give you an example. We have supposedly intelligent highways. What it means is that when you go into the freeway in case of a public disaster, you'll be guided where to go, which direction, what's going on. They have signs and they have radios. HAR, Highway Advisory Radio, and it's AM. I have a hybrid vehicle and I cannot get AM. All the cars with battery do not receive AM. So I don't know how they get around it. But in general, how Caltrans collaborates with the cities, we'd like to know in case of a major evacuation.
I have an electric car, I get AM.
I'm sorry, yes.
I get AM on my electric car.
Really?
Yeah.
No, both of
Switch it out.
them.
No, anyway,
That's
okay.
battery to be right.
We'll have that discussion. Okay, good.
Still have one comment.
Yes.
Ray Iverson of our East Bay Regional Park District. I believe as Councilmember Vana mentioned earlier about fire departments, and just so everyone knows that every fire department, most fire departments have an annual report, which dictates and outlines their activities and accomplishments for the year. It'd be a good source for information. Someone needs to look back on what the fire departments in both counties are doing. I'll reference their annual report for that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
SB 959. I guess I'm not familiar with that. That is something.
That was the bill that Donnie raised that, yes, ma'am.
School evacuation basically expands the ability of public service agencies from just police to police and fire departments to call a red flag day, for example, a reason to cancel school but still get the state money, essentially. And it's a very minor language change, so there's a very good chance of passing and benefiting schools that may otherwise hesitate to call days off or whatever.
So it's not on this list, but it's
No.
Right.
Any other comments on future agenda items, or just on that topic, and then we're going back to this item, okay? And we asked for public comment. I think we got public comment on this. So we just finished item 8.8, so we're now going back to item 7, the contractor's presentation. So your train arrived and you're here, and yes.
Yes.
Okay, just because we had a little break there, I wanted to make sure everyone understands that we're looking at public education and communication on the issue of wildfire prevention. My suggestion is we're going to hear from our 2 consultants, Noah and Derek, and then my suggestion would be that we make a resolution to approve moving forward with the program, and that since they're making a verbal presentation, that they prepare a short written one that be given to our new officers, and that the new officers be given responsibility for approving it so that we can move ahead, because the next full meeting of this organization will not be until May.
Okay.
So Eric and Noah.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all. My name is Derek Jansen with Mercury Public Affairs. I'm joined here by my colleague,
Noah Finneyberg, Message Department.
And we are excited to present our plan that we put together, a proposal we put together in response to the needs that you guys expressed around building out a communications education awareness program around wildfire safety, thinking about Zone Zero and thinking about how people can protect their homes, do a better job of protecting their homes in the case of the wildfire. Wanted to just kind of start, first of all, thank you for being patient with my train. It was delayed about half an hour. Would have been here half an hour ago when it started, but it's where we are. So I represent Berkeley Public Affairs. We are a national public affairs firm. We work in everything from campaigns, we do government affairs, we do public affairs, which broadly means helping the public understand and engage with government. Sometimes that might mean a project like this where we're working on helping the public be aware of what programs and resources and requirements are there might be at them. Sometimes it's working frankly to influence the government directly. In this case, we're really excited to focus on the outward communications towards the public to bring them along with this really critical issue. We're a firm of 130 people across the country. We have about 10 here in California. I'm in Sacramento. We have 2 of us up there. We're in San Francisco. We're in Los Angeles. So we have a lot of experience across a lot of different issue areas. My personal experience is a lot of campaigns, a lot with strategic communications, behavior change campaigns. I've done a fair amount with wildfire, most specifically probably around Prop 68, which was a statewide bond to resources, major fields of wildfire. I'll let Noah talk a little bit more about his background, especially with relates to wildfire, but I'll pause there so we can get into the meat of this presentation.
Sure. I'm Noah Finneyberg. I'm a campaigns, communications, and media consultant. I do messaging, creative communications for entities, for ballot measures, for candidates, for public affairs projects. I've actually worked with Derek for almost 10 years on various things. I have worked on wildfire-related issues, both with statewide ballot measures. Derek and I worked together on Prop 68. I did some direct mail on Prop 4, which was the kind of son of Prop 68, the follow-up in last year. That was even before the LA wildfires. Got huge support statewide. Worked on local ballot measures around fire prevention and funding fire departments with the Measure FF in Berkeley. A couple of years ago, worked on with political candidates who are representing areas that are impacted or under threat of wildfire. And I'm currently working with the Berkeley Fire Department on their communications plan on Zone Zero. It's a huge minefield, as I'm sure many of you know. Berkeley's taken some very aggressive, admirably aggressive stances on it, and there's a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding in Berkeley Hills, and a lot of pushback. It's led to one council member facing a possible recall. So navigating those minefields, communicating to the public, reassuring folks that what parts of bonds is something that I specialize in. So I'm really excited to work on this. It's an issue that's also really close to my heart. I was 9 or 10 when the fire happened. Grew up in Wildfire, and it's just a very, very vivid memory. And so it's an issue I care.
So Noah and I have worked together closely for about 10 years. We used to work at the same firm together. We've gone out to other firms, and we continue to collaborate on projects whenever we can. This is a great example of where kind of the strategic public affairs that I bring to a project can marry really well with the creative brilliance that Noah brings to a project. So we're excited to present the rest of this.
You're with Mercury and you're with Message Department.
Mm-hmm.
Just two separate.
Yeah. So both of us have cut our teeth in the Bay Area. Noah more so in the East Bay, wildfires and the examples he just gave. We are proactive team players. Probably read in our proposal, hopefully, but we really hope to be your strategic partners. So I think the conversation that preceded this one about modifying the proposal and making sure that we're ready to jump into an immediate action, immediate products. We're ready to do that. We have the experience to do that, and we want to do that strategically with you to make sure that what we're delivering for you is what you need and what your communities need. At the same time, we also want to take a very thoughtful strategic approach to this work. As we all know, wildfire is no longer a rare event. Unfortunately, all the things we're asking homeowners to do, that we're asking people to do to protect their communities, do cost them. They also are emotional for some people. We're talking about the look and feel of their home, whether or not they can have their favorite bush next to their house. These are trivial in a certain way, but they're also emotional things for people to make a decision. And it really is a behavior change campaign in order to get people to really buy in and make the changes that we need them to make. And I heard the conversation a minute ago about evacuations. That is obviously a major part of the puzzle, but there's also individual things that people can do, and they can't. We want to make sure that folks aren't just believing that this is going to happen for them. We want them to buy in and take action, especially at the point of decision where they can take action to make their homes more fire safe and resilient. So one of the things we want to do to make sure that we are being really smart about this is actually understand who these audiences are. What's driving their decision making? What's making them decide that they want to keep that bush next to their house, or they're willing to invest in their home to make it more fire safe. So really getting a lot of clarity about who those folks are across a fairly large geographic area, with some diversity of how people, the communities and the neighborhoods that people live in. We also want to make sure that we are really understanding their beliefs and also the resistance. And so we can go and do a survey and kind of, do you believe you should change things? But we also want to actually engage with people, and a lot of those people actually might be in this room or on this screen. We want to actually engage and hear what people think, hear what people are hearing in their own communities, speaking with the fire departments, speaking with people who actually have all of that experience. And then finally, we also want to, in this part of the project, identify our effective messengers. So who are the folks who can reach people in unusual and unexpected ways? Because that's how you change behavior. When people don't know or aren't expecting you to try to convince them, you share some information with them that actually makes them go, oh, I get it. This could be actually something a change that I would want to make in my home. And then of course we want to refine our messaging. So there is in our proposal a plan to put together a future research project. That would be a survey, that would be something more robust to understand views at a broader level. But what this plan is really about is creating the groundwork, the framework for all of that work to come. Again, back to the whole point here is that our goal is to develop an awareness and education campaign. We want to make sure our stakeholders are really bought in. So all of that work that I'm talking about right now, around engaging with stakeholders, going and talking to community members, talking to unusual community members. You may notice in the proposal we've included landscapers. How are landscapers helping homeowners make decisions about how they're going to make their home fire safe? How are contractors making a difference here? How are home and garden stores making a difference here? In my neighborhood, there's a lot of light installers, holiday light installers. I don't know. We should talk to them. We should find out what the unusual ways are that people are having conversations about the look and feel of their home. From there, we do want to make sure that we're thinking about both the how fear can drive behavior change, but also opportunity can drive behavior change. So thinking about everything from narrow hillsides, all the overgrown vegetation, evacuations, thinking about that. Also thinking about like the instability of the California Fair Plan. How are all of these things coming together to make people make decisions? The more people that we talk to across this entire region, the more that we hear from people and hear from all of you, the better we can come up with the plan and the approach to go out and reach these people with messages. Again, back to the point of this, how do we reach them with messages to raise their awareness, raise their education, and get them to change their behavior to make their homes more fire safe? I'll pause there for a second because I went through a lot of different pieces of the kind of approach of how we're thinking about this. But I want to really emphasize that this groundwork is really critical to make sure that once we do get into production, and I'll let Noah kind of talk about that for a second. Once we have that really shared understanding, then we can get into creative production in a way that know who's going to be delivering the message. We know where the message is going to be delivered. We know who it is that we're trying to get that message to.
Yeah, I mean, like Derek said, we want to understand our audience here. But wildfire means different things to different people in different communities. I know the Berkeley Hills obviously have the evacuation challenge. How resonant is the memory of the Oakland Hills fire? Can that be something that you can bring up? Obviously, there's different generations that remember it and don't. There's different, political considerations to think about, such as in Berkeley. We want to make sure we're thinking about information access and existing conversations. So in Berkeley, there's a lot of resistance on Nextdoor. Who are we, who are we sending on Nextdoor? Who are our spokespeople and ambassadors who are on there to counter the misinformation? he mentioned economic resistance and capacity. Obviously, even folks in the Berkeley Hills who, live in a $2-3 million house, maybe they are, seniors on a fixed income who've lived there for 40 or 50 years, and this is actually going to be very economically challenging to them. So we want to understand those different messages, those different audiences, and to communicate with them in a way that resonates with them and, gets them off.
Yeah, so I think we talked about the approach a little bit. I just want to talk specifically about what we're planning right now. So our plan is to deliver a communications plan that takes all of these inputs that we can and develops a strategy so we can go out and know, like I said before, who we're trying to reach, how we're going to reach them, what messages we're going to use to reach them, and what messages need to go out. Now, there's also, I think, a real critical need here for the East Bay Wildfire Coalition to just get some content out there. And so we've always kind of viewed this as soon as we get this kind of planning phase, maybe even concurrently with this planning phase, we want to create content. We want to create content that can go out on existing social media channels. We want to create content that can go out in existing email lists. There's, one of the things we're going to try to do is understand what channels are currently available to us, and so that we can actually just get content into those places right away. Some of these messages are, we don't need to overthink, and so I want to be careful that as we talk about planning, that we don't get stuck in planning paralysis. One of our goals here is to make sure we understand these audiences, but the other goal is to actually communicate with them. So that's a really critical piece of what we want to do. So our plan elements include this kind of developing doing the stakeholder interviews, understanding what our research goals are, conducting that research, also within that, figuring out what a future survey, what kind of messaging survey we might need to conduct in the future. That's a future thing. So that we'll include that so we can understand where we're going in the future. That's the point of creating a plan. But we're not going to then hold off on doing things. We're going to get right into message development. So we will develop messages based on what we already know, based on what you already know. This will be the messaging that we then work with local communities in the short term to give them the tools that they need. And then also in the future, again, go and actually conduct a survey and figure out what is working with different communities and beyond just the conversations that we're able to have, but actually conducting statistically reliable surveys of what messages are actually changing people's behaviors and views.
And some of this messaging created, we're not doing a huge poll, obviously, for a while. You can test this in real time. So you can do, a video and give on Meta and test really which one is the most effective. Obviously, you're always going to get some trolls who will respond negatively to anything, but you can really tell what's getting the most engagement, what's getting the most likes, what's getting the most shares. And, from the political campaign, where we already do that, we always, we test 5 or 6, sometimes 30 or 40 different variations, depending on your budget, and then shift the money to the ones that are getting more engagement. You downplay the other ones. And sometimes it's a big surprise about which one, oh, that's the wonky one that no one's going to engage with. Actually, no, that's the one that people will get into this huge conversation with and they're sharing with their friends. So you can learn in real time kind of what is the most effective creative and messaging tools that are resonating with folks.
So then within that also, we want to figure out our actual communication strategy in terms of like where this stuff goes. And I mentioned that a couple of times, but one thing I haven't mentioned is also think about earned media. So what are the things that we're doing to not have to go spend the money on paid media advertising? What can we do to look at very small local publications? What can we do to look at do we expect the Chronicle to run a big article about this every week? Probably not. And that's maybe they should, but they won't. And so how do we think about all the different communications channels that are available to us? So taking that content, taking those ideas that Noah was just talking about, figuring out how to slot them into different places where people receive their information. There's like local neighborhood realtor newsletters that get sent out. How do we tap into all of these different places that people receive information about their homes, about their communities? Finally, because materials development is so critical here, we have a big chunk dedicated to creating materials. I think there's some of the things that are listed here are like one-pagers and fact sheets, and those are important. We also recognize the value of video, and I think as we adjust the budget and adjust the overall scope here, I think we can include some video early on. Figure out who the right messengers are in those videos. Firefighters tend to do pretty well, so we'll probably be looking to some of our friends who help our community safe to tell those stories. So we do envision creating a whole bunch of content that also then can create a foundation for going out and raising more money for this program to exist in the future. There's also, if you looked at our proposal, there's a fee that's associated with our time and services. There's also a budget that's set aside for additional. That additional budget can go to video production. That additional budget can go to grant writing. That additional budget can go to various different things. And we will be working with you again as a strategic partner to figure out how that money should be spent. And also, I just want to acknowledge that we were asked to think about how to adjust the scope to make sure that we can get content going quickly. I think we can front load some of the content creation here, and our fees for our time would go down based on the reduced research budget, or that stakeholder engagement budget. But we could then create some additional content that would allow us to create things like videos in the short term and get that content going quickly. I'll pause there for any additional questions. The only thing I'll add is that we're ready to go. We're ready to get started on this right away. And so as soon as we can work to get the final approval from the board, we can get to work.
Before you got here, John summarized a couple of alterations from what you had originally sent based on some input from officers here. And if you want to just make sure we summarize those.
Yeah, I think if you look at the written proposal, it is it's very heavily focused on planning. And what we're proposing now is to include a major portion of the time on message development and actually beginning the outreach effort. I think Derek especially touched on that. We want to move forward as quickly as possible. There's a lot of history of what's been done. That is available, as you want to take advantage of those, and I think that's incorporated in the revised verbal proposal that we heard today, and they'll write up again a very brief summary of that, so that your officers will have a written document to bring before we move forward.
So what we have is so the 50,000 would cover what you talked about, the message development. But it's unclear to me whether that actually includes the actual implementation of, like, obviously there's earned media, but in terms of the paid, whether it's on social media, is that built into this?
So the way that we wrote this scope envisions a pretty robust stakeholder engagement process. And so we need to scale that back in order to do that. But the short answer is absolutely yes. If that's your desire to do that, then we will adjust those funds accordingly.
And one way to also maybe scale that back, we have at least one of our county wildfire coordinators on, and their job is interfacing a lot with the public and hearing, and I think talking to them about their what they've heard. I mean, Alameda has the same. And Michelle, do you have anything to add to this discussion about input on this? If you're still there? I don't know if she's still there.
I am still here. Thank you so much. I do look forward to providing support to the East Bay Wildfire Coalition overall as part of our grant deliverables. I do also have an extensive interaction with the public and Firewise leaders within the community. So I think that could be an added resource for us.
Yeah, I know you get out a lot to talk before groups, and as do probably many of the board members here.
Yeah.
So I think talking obviously to each of the board members here, who obviously self-select to serve on this board because we're interested in this issue and we talk to people.
We're grateful.
So that would be useful to talk to everybody here. Right.
And we do plan on interviewing as many of you who are willing to chat with us, because we want to learn from you and your experiences. The communities across the East Bay Wildfire Coalition area, on one hand, they're all East Bay, but there's also a lot of differences. So we want to make sure we understand those and think about what works in Oakland versus El Cerrito versus Richmond versus Berkeley Hills. These are all places that have unique. So if we don't listen to the folks here, we're really missing a lot of really valuable.
And this is all would be done with one period.
That's the goal, and that is yes, and that is why we anticipate that could be a lot of interviews.
Yeah,
and so that's why we focused on that piece of it. Essentially, we have to, like I said before, we have to kind of scale that back. We have to be a little more.
So sorry for interruption. Mr. Chair, I have to recuse myself, and because it's the end of the meeting, I'm gonna leave.
Oh.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
So we need to be a little bit more surgical and look at people a bit more carefully, because it's not just the interview, it's also, I mean, information, and then put it into action. More coalesce into something takes more time. Right.
Yes, Robert.
I think at some point, I think Chief Bachman would like to weigh in as well.
Okay.
He's on.
Why don't we get Chief Bachman?
Yes, good morning. I've been speaking with
Identify yourself for everybody.
Chris Bachman, Assistant Chief and Fire Marshal with Contra Costa County Fire. And I work with Michelle and oversee the county coordinator grant that we currently have through the California Fire Safe Council. Part of that, one of those grant deliverables that we have to have done before the end of July is creating some video outputs. I believe it's at least 4 that are going to talk about home hardening, defensible space, what is zone 0, and how to be better prepared for wildfires. With that, we have roughly $25,000 in grant funds. So whether we're working alongside with the company that this group chooses, or we interact and contract with them, it's just that we'll have to deal with some procurement issues of whoever we contract with, because it would be separate from this contract that whoever the board moves forward with. But either way, I think that there's some collaboration we can definitely do as a group. And we do have, as I mentioned, some money that we have some deliverables kind of aligning with the messaging you're hoping to put out, that we also have a short time frame to wrap up and finish as well as part of Michelle's county coordinator grant for Contra Costa County.
And Chief, it would seem to me that given that the alignment of all this work, it would make sense to work with this effort, right? I mean, rather go off and work with someone else, given the sort of overlap and alignment, working with this effort here. Can you do that?
Yeah, I just need to make sure that it's the procurement issue of, are we doing sole source? Are we staying under a certain amount? It's kind of that procurement guideline, or using the 3 quotes that they had and identifying why we selected this vendor, that we just have to make sure we're meeting the procurement requirements of the grant.
And we'll make sure you're in contact with them. And this doesn't have to go back to our fire board, does it? So you're good with that? I'm on the fire district board.
It would only need to go back to the fire district board based on the dollar amount, if it meets that threshold if we need to go to the board to ask approval to go into contract.
Okay, so we'll make sure you're in contact with them. Okay, thank you, Chief.
And if I could, I would just note that we're happy to be the vendor for that. We're also understanding that there's hopefully everybody is doing projects like this, and so part of the goal here is also to create a framework that can be adapted.
But you're doing work with Berkeley now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Alameda or other fire agencies are doing, but if they are, maybe everybody here is aligned with a certain agency, and maybe they get linked up.
Exactly.
Right.
I'd love for this plan, once we have it completed, to be something that everybody can look at and know that their efforts are being done in concert with, or two, and to help bolster the entire region.
Yeah. Councilmember, did you want to add further?
I do. Well, firstly, thank you for adjusting the proposal a little more to match movement work. I hope you do take advantage of all of the elected here. We do know, not definitively, but as people that run elections do know our relative constituencies and who are the trusted messengers in many regards. So not trying to do too much recreating of the bill. I think creative ideas like realtor newsletters or landscapers are like a good idea, but we do know the main fire safe councils, the main people who are involved, who already know about the issue. There's 2 things. In my perspective, our cities are very different. Berkeley, having passed an ordinance, is very different from the rest of our cities who have not, even in a highly engaged district that I represent, District 4, which is the majority of the fire zone Oakland Hills, does not know what zone 0 is, because the demographics are changing rapidly. So if you go to a fire safe council or a neighborhood council, you're going to get a skewed perspective rather than new residents to the hills who only care about fire in terms of losing their homeowners insurance or not being able to get homeowners insurance, and don't even know about the 91 fire. Like it's just a new consciousness of a majority of a new set of folks, at least speaking for Oakland, that are new residents to the Hill, especially since the pandemic onwards. A lot of younger folks, a lot of diverse populations, people who don't know or don't care about fire except in terms of why can't I get my homeowner's insurance? So just putting that out there. I also think that, you know, Susan has made some very good points of there's great material from Berkeley as far as the urban context goes. I've made a number of presentations on what Zone 0 is to different groups, and nothing beats the effectiveness of that one CAL FIRE video that shows a live burn of one house with Zone 0 being implemented, and then another right next to a structure, a burn happening at the same time. One house burns down, one structure burns down, doesn't. So I think there's a lot of great material out there, which, you know, doesn't have to be branded as ours, but can be courtesy of CAL FIRE, courtesy of Berkeley, that we can be the central dissemination system from. So I really hope that we're taking advantage. I mean, I think a majority of stuff from the state is not that good and not relevant to our East Bay urban suburban environments. And it's definitely a lot more rural focused, but there are some good materials out there that I think we can consolidate and bring the best life forward.
That's great.
Yeah. And so can you speak a little bit more about kind of the A/B testing you referenced? Because I think that's an important tool, and I would love to see that in the proposal to say, hey, you just viewed this ad. And this doesn't even have to be social media. It can be a digital ad at the side of the East Bay Mercury News, the East Bay Times, where someone, you know, views something and says their info. It's very, or next door, however it is. Is that something you're hoping to incorporate in this?
Yeah, A/B testing is, I think that the idea behind that would be when we do paid media, because the A/B testing we can do prior to that is going to be more like taking like your email list and splitting it in half and seeing which half performs better. That's like the free version of that. To do it with paid media makes it a lot more robust. And so I think that's absolutely any effective program should absolutely include an A/B testing, or at least comparing different ads to each other in terms of how they perform. I think in this particular short term, I think that the A/B testing and the comparative testing that we can conduct without paid media is, like I said, like let's see what happens if half of your email list versus the other half of your email list. And that's where some of these stakeholder interviews are going to come in. You know, I don't know what your email list to your constituents looks like. If it's, you know, a few hundred, a few thousand, or 10,000. That helps us kind of understand.
25,000.
That's awesome. So we want to A/B test on that, and that's going to help us understand what is actually a little bit stickier with your audience. But of course, like you mentioned, that's going to be different than what might be sticky in another part of the county.
So is paid media part of this?
Yeah.
And I think that's really relevant. Is that something that can be incorporated into this?
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by paid media?
Pay for digital ads.
Like money put behind.
Oh, for ads and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I asked you about social media, that's what I was asking, is maybe you misunderstood my question. You said it includes some social media. I meant digital ads, paid part. You said that's built into this?
Oh, no.
Oh.
We can include it in part of it. I mean, we'll have to relook at the budget. You can do tiny little tests, boosting, stuff
Right.
like that. You can
Or
do tiny
individuals
tests.
here with their social media networks can incorporate your materials
Yes.
from their free social media networks, potentially, because we all.
You can do tiny little paid tests and
Right,
boosting
but
and
not-
stuff, but not, I mean, very
But
robust.
not exactly, not the major stuff, not big
Yeah.
ads.
We could do some minor testing if that's
Or
possible.
you could test even through our social media outlet, like, you know, we have various social media, but it's not paid.
So
Depending on how big the audience.
I would love
Yeah.
more of the paid ads, because even, you know, those of us that have a following, people don't, the Wildfire posts never do. It's not always our target audience who consumes, so I think paid ads with a survey at that, with a 2-question survey at the end, I would love to see that incorporated in this proposal.
The question is, because I have a district that's similar to very, I mean, I have most of the Contra Costa section on the side, from Kensington, El Cerrito to Richmond to Knoll, and there's different audiences in a lot of those. And so you're really gonna have to, there's folks probably in Kensington who are around the Fire. I was on the board in the Oklahoma Fire, so I remember it well.
Yeah.
It was impacted. But, you know, there are folks from Kensington and, you know, other folks elsewhere in Richmond who weren't around. It's just a different dynamic. Are you going to really dig deeper into that? Because audiences are different, as Janani says.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure in your area too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just on that, you know, I represent Oakland and Berkeley, and, you know, at the city council level, you all are very engaged. But in Alameda and Castro Valley, there's some unincorporated areas, which I don't think are as robust in terms of having the wildfire councils, you know, engaging on this issue. So, but I was also wondering how we might be able to do some targeting in the wildfire zones, whether it's through photo data or if there's a way to work with our counties, because when we, you know, work on planning issues, we can often mail directly to addresses. So yeah, do you have a sense of what the possibility is to go directly to people who live in the wildfire zones?
Mail is a great example. We have a lot of history doing direct mail, mostly in political context.
But it's expensive.
It is. I'm doing some with the Berkeley, but it's expensive. And you're talking 80 cents a piece.
And just to be clear, we're focusing on the property owners that live in zones where we would really focus on zone 0, right? That's what we're focusing on. And do we have actually a map visually we can see of all of this?
Yes.
It'd be nice to
Do you want it now?
Do you have it? Yeah.
Well,
I mean, is it
think
online where we
probably
can see, or
it is online.
and I don't want to take up too much time, but we may want to put that also on our website so it's clear. I guess maybe I didn't register exactly how far down the hill this goes.
We their map. Yeah. And I don't have my computer.
Yeah, I don't know. You click, like, it does go down the hill in El Cerrito, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it actually went up the hill in portions, and because the areas like the hillside natural area, which is a huge fire risk, is not included.
That's weird.
Public.
That is.
There's a lot that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the chair, the word maps becomes controversial. Because you can look at maps that show the entire area, and then you can look at the revised maps, which just stated it's actually a smaller area. And what's happening is individual cities are looking at that and they're making maps that are based on what they think the area should be. So there are maps, but it gets complicated very easily. But I think one thing we will do, or our consultants will do, is put together a specific plan and begin reaching out with messages. It gets complicated again because it's just said different people live in different areas and they have different levels of knowledge. Some people just need to be told, okay, here's what you can do, and here are people that will do it for you in your yard, in your house, and others don't have a clue.
Right.
So it gets very complicated very fast.
One of the things that I being on East Bay Mud board, East Bay Mud has a very successful, they put out their own landscape garden, and it was focused on, you know, drought resistant. And now, you know, I think there's multiple objectives: drought resistant, fire resistant. And I've been meaning to have detailed conversations with East Bay Mud on that, about how we may be taking some of this, expand out their marketing and effort to the community through the materials and books that they have that broadens it. And I think they're beginning to do this from you know, drought resistant to fire resistant. You know, how would that play in? I mean, you would link to them. I plan to have a discussion.
Yeah, but I think this is a really great discussion. I think that this is a lot of what we're hoping to get into with this contract, to be able to elevate those types of ideas, figure out what's currently happening and how do we start centralizing this, and not centralizing for the sake of centralizing, but for the sake of amplification. So whether, you know, East Bay Mud has something or somebody else has a resource, is that something that works for that area? How can we amplify it for that area? Does it have effectiveness in other areas, other parts of this region that it could be adapted and amplified as well? And so part of it is to get all the collective knowledge and wisdom from this room and beyond into a place where we can create a comprehensive and smart campaign to go and affect, by looking at here, there's some dark red areas. Like obviously that's a high priority for us to go after those areas. There's also, the way that we want to think about this is the region is also big and diverse. And so if we only focus on those specific cities, those specific places that are in the dark red areas, then we're not actually achieving the overall mission.
Yeah, I have a question for the consultants. You've already done what seems like a similar but smaller scope version of this with Berkeley Fire Department. Is that right? I was wondering if you could say more about that. Like, what was the scope of that, and also how was it received? Because it's completed, right? You sent the mailers out.
We're in the process of several different ones. But yeah.
Can you say a little more about like it was? The idea of that was similar to what's being proposed. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, they basically said they came to me and said there's a lot of misinformation out there. We're trying to win hearts and minds. People were in the hills were saying we're going to be arrested if we don't do this. We're going to be fined. A lot of misinformation on Nextdoor. And so I had, obviously just informational interviews with the fire department to get download all their fact sheets and everything. And then I actually had a few sit downs with some homeowners up the hills who were already in the process of doing it, just to kind of talk about it, and in a way that wasn't super wonky and that we could communicate to other homeowners. So I just had like lunch with 4 women. I'm like, tell them, what are you doing? Tell me what's a small thing you're doing to protect your home. Because a lot of the fear about this is like, this is going to take me, so long to do. It's possible to do it perfectly. It's going to cost me so much money. The fire department really wanted to convey it. It's like, no, you can do these little things. Other neighbors are doing little things. We're pretty, the things over our vents. We're trimming some trees here. We're not going to have to tear down the entire garden. And so that was, we treated it like a political campaign. We did mailers where we had pictures of the different neighbors and where they live, quotes saying, our department is here to help us. We've been working with them closely, little by little. And so we did mail to the most impacted area, digital to the whole city. That's more the city. That's more just like, hey, Berkeley's a big wildfire area. Find out what you can do. And then I get the mails more direct. We're ramping up the urgency. We started in November. We did a mailer then. The digital. We did another mailer in January. It's like the first one was kind of just like, we're all coming together. Berkeley's a great community. We look out for each other. We're following the science. We can protect ourselves. Let's get started. The second one's like, hey, the inspections are coming up. It's time to get serious about this. And then we're going to do another wave in May. The inspections start in June. It's going to be a little bit more urgent. But to be honest, the messaging has kind of shifted a little bit as, because I'm in regular contact with Colin Arnold, who's the deputy chief, and he's out there, talking to the actual.
Behind you, and then he just walked in.
We're not in that close contact.
No, I knew. Yeah. But, he's out there actually hearing from people. And so we're adjusting kind of on the fly. Like, it's like, okay, let's just thank people for what they're doing, and he's hearing, you can say what people are saying, whether they're receiving it well. I mean, obviously there are a couple of people who will attack everything, and they're putting our mailer up on Nextdoor, and one woman who says she speaks for the camellias, and it's, that's she's leading the recall, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're kind of shifting in real time.
Against Fred.
Yes,
against Fred.
Yes. Yeah. So we're shifting kind of in real time to just, we obviously don't want to scare people. We want to give them, a sense that their neighbors are doing it as well, and that it's not an overwhelming thing, and that, the fire department is here to help. So we're doing, various different kind of soft focus, nice touchy-feely stuff on positive, yes, on social media. To do that.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So what we're sort of getting any questions or comments from the board first here on this. Yes.
One follow-up.
I was wondering, actually, maybe Chief Arnold could answer this. I'm wondering if there are any metrics. You know, I'm sure you have an anecdotal sense of if it's working, but do you have how much information do you have and what kind of?
Well, he can talk about how people are receiving the stuff in these one-on-one conversations. We're seeing mostly I'm looking at the Instagram ads, the Facebook ads. We're seeing mostly positive, likes and comments. Thanks for what you're doing, that sort of stuff. So it's not as toxic as like next door. But that's people going next door and be toxic. That's what they do. But yeah, what have you?
Sure. Colin Arnold, Assistant Chief of Berkeley Fire, charge of the Louis Division. So we don't have specific metrics that are tracking our success. I think the way we're measuring success right now is by how many folks are requesting inspections and interactions with us. That's a metric for success. If you're calling us into your backyard, there's a sign that you're interested in what we have to offer. I mean, anecdotally, I can tell you we're booked about a month out right now for inspections. So we've got folks working 3 to 4 days a week, back to back, doing inspections. And the biggest complaint right now is that we don't have enough staff and can't get people fast enough. We've done about 600 or so inspections since Ember passed last year out of roughly 1,200 to 1,400 homes that are affected by this. And so that metric is again biased by people that are interested in hearing from us. But to say that about half the folks have requested a full access inspection and invited us into their backyards is a sign that there is a high level of faith out there for most folks. I mean, what you hear Instagram, Nextdoor, whatnot are the extremes on either side. I think the vast majority of residents are interested in getting this done, being safer, and then getting back to raising their kids or whatever it is they want to do. The only thing I have one more point there. Oh, I think one of the things that we've really picked up on is, we're an authority as the fire department, and so we generally are handing down requirements or engaging with folks from a perspective of what they need to do. And one thing that we've benefited from engaging other people in this conversation is how do we start to change this into a narrative of the community helping themselves, and we are there to support. So getting the spotlight off of us, I think it's been really helpful. And it has allowed us to sort of sit back and say, hey, we're one of those folks that are trying to help. Here's what we have to offer. How can we help you? So beyond that, we're looking at tracking additional metrics. Our main interest is what's reducing risk. So the metrics that we know actually have an impact on community risk reduction. Those are the metrics we're interested in. And that's not necessarily how many inspections we've done or how many violations we found. It's about how many full access inspections we've done and how many violations we've resolved and how many homes are in full compliance. And that's a very slow metric to track.
Yeah. Other comments? Yeah. Lisa, Roger.
Thank you for this presentation and on the work that went into this proposal. I'm getting a little concerned that I'm not sure what the scope is now because we've been talking a lot. And it would be great to have the scope clearly written down and the cost if it's changing. I think the thing that concerns me is I know we want to be very active, and I think this is a lot of that. Pointing at the prior proposal, it's a lot of sort of background work, but it sounds like what you're saying is that if you don't do the background work, the messaging and the campaign won't be very successful. So cutting it back and doing more, it's in our budget, but how effective is it going to be if we cut back the background stuff?
And I think that the Berkeley example is really a good example of where you have a very clear direction that you need to go. There's Berkeley took action as a city to require this, and so there's a forcing mechanism, and so it's easier to run a campaign to help people understand what is this forcing mechanism doing to me, to my home, and what I have to do to be compliant. I think what we're talking about outside of Berkeley is a little bit more challenging. But that said, you guys are the experts, and so if we can replicate the Berkeley example in the rest of the region, by region, I think it's easier for us to scale back because we have that more clear direction on exactly what's needed in this community. And I think in Berkeley, it's you need to have your home inspected, you need to apply. And in other places, we're dealing with more of a behavior change type campaign where we're saying, please, won't you?
We're trying to get people to sort of voluntarily enact the best practices zone 0.
Right.
and explain why. That's the goal.
Exactly.
That's really the goal of this. Now, and my understanding is it's the same budget amount, but they're going to make some amendments to the scope based on our direction here. They were right that the way it's written has been directed to change. Yeah.
If I can just make a comment through the chair to clarify a little bit, when you get beyond the bills, the messaging might actually be simple. Because well, we know a lot about how people in Berkeley Hills think.
So what do you mean? Why is it simple?
It's simpler because people are just getting involved. They don't have as much information. So we are giving them more basic information. The more complicated messaging comes later on when they actually discover that they have to do work to their homes. Then they get into the specific issues of what do I have to do? Who's going to do it for me? Who's going to come out to my house? How am I going to pay for it? That comes. That's very important, and we need to be prepared for that in the rollout of the program. But initially, the messaging is not that complicated, except in areas like the Berkeley and Oak Hills.
I think, for example, my community is El Cerrito, and we've had, high awareness about wildfire danger for a long time. And so we have done a lot of ordinances. The Firewise folks have come out for years, and it's in our strategic planning. And so I don't think that there's not awareness, but I think it's that they kind of don't want to know because it's going to be expensive, and we don't want to do it until they have to do it. So I think that's I think it's pretty much the similar argument to Berkeley.
And I think that that's one of the reasons we wanted to have these conversations with you and with the people that you tell us to talk to, because we want to understand the underlying psychology there. Is it economic? Is it aesthetics? They don't want to move these bushes away from the home. What are the underlying things that are preventing them from taking action? And one of the things that we include, I like using this example because it's so simple. Do landscapers know, and are they talking to their clients about zone zero and about these needs? And because at that point of decision making, there's that homeowner, do they have the prior information that they need, so that when they're asked by the landscaper, hey, do you want me to trim this back? They say, oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to do that. And so that's the kind of stuff that we want.
Chief Burchard's had his hand up. Chief?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to call attention. This is all new for all of us, and working with a fiscal agent, but I just wanted to call some attention to some process-related issues here. The MOU calls out the fiscal agent as the contracting entity, which means that's Fire, and the contract needs to flow through the process of our procurement rules. So I'm fairly confident that we can make this work, but in the future, since it sounds like this consultant has been somewhat selected as the group to move forward with, in the future, whoever it is on the board who's working through these types of processes, we need to have a confer with the fiscal agent on process. So right now, I can't guarantee, because the dollar amount is above our threshold where we would need multiple quotes. I don't know if that was done, but I think there's a possibility that we could use what we call a sole source for this. But as you're talking with the consultant, there's other procurement processes and agreements and contracts and things that need to take place before any work commences. So I just want to bring that to attention, and whoever it is on the coalition, that we can get in contact with our finance team sooner the better, so that the work can actually commence and the agreement can be inked. But I just wanted to make sure we weren't putting the cart before the horse, because there is a process behind this.
Okay, we'll work on that. We'll get that done. Okay.
We'll do it.
Rocky.
Yeah, we just had a meeting at our library this past weekend by the Kensington Fire Safe Council. The library was full, And it was about home hardening and wildfire preparedness, but in the context of insurance. And I don't hear a lot of talk about that in this discussion, but you've got a very receptive audience. You talk about enforcement, you talk about people, misinformation about fines, misinformation about, legal problems. Well, everybody knows that people are being canceled. Right. And so in that context, I think we can have a very receptive audience. Yeah. The other thing I want to mention is, social media, you can do really great things with that. But I think nothing is more effective than in-person communication. So if there's a way to empower those of us who want to go out in our communities and be giving in-person presentations about this, I think that can be a component of this that doesn't maybe require a lot of extra work on your part, but I think it can be really valuable.
Well, I think Kensington, you need 5,000 people, all of Kensington, and I represent this area, I know how much a few people really care about this issue. And it's like everybody is attuned to this, and it's a small community, it's manageable to go out and do that kind of thing, right? Other areas like Oakland and other are massive and are going to be a lot harder to do this type of work.
Yeah, I completely agree that on both points, the ability to just arm you all with materials that's why we put it in here, to create materials, create one pagers. We can, we will working with you figure out what's needed for your community. Hopefully we can do stuff that's a little bit more universal for the region, but community specific is also important. Got it. I also just want to address the insurance thing. I actually think that's really critical when I was talking about fear earlier. That's where that comes in. How much is fear going to drive people's desire and kind of their compulsion, hopefully, to do something about this?
I was just going to say, having a pre-canned, slide deck.
Yeah.
For folks, whether it's our, county staff going to East Richmond Heights or Kensington or Cerrito or wherever, just having some slides that folks can go through. And then also understanding and communicating to the community when the statewide zone 0 will be coming in. So, we can educate folks right now, but give them sort of a timeline as to when we're going to be in the same, other communities are going to be in the same boat as Berkeley is now.
Okay, so trying to move this along for other comments. So providing this directive, it's going to involve making some changes to this, and then authorizing the officers to finalize the contract and working with Confire, and I'll be involved in that effort. So there's going to be some effort, and hopefully all this stuff before May. That's the goal. But there's always the possibility of back in May and provide some direction today. Yes.
Quick points. I think that timeline should be extended. I think some of the groups that you might want to talk with are not even meeting in May, so extending this to a 4-month contract. And
Get May to start the approval. Sorry, it wasn't clear because I think the work's gonna probably start hopefully in May to go summer.
But still a 4-month period
Yeah.
as we get closer to the fires, not just so you actually get, because this is a wide geographical area to talk about today. It's gonna be much harder than just Berkeley or just Oakland. My 2 requests to consider when you bring the new written proposal to us is to include a budget. My ask would be 10,000 or within the 5,000 for digital. And any discussion of how the final product could be used for future grant writing opportunities. Because the goal is, we as a body, we only have $55,000 in the thing, and with this proposal will be we want money to implement this and some guidance of what you might be able to help with to get us $1 million to implement full scale education.
100%. And we'd included the I'm trying to make sure I could cite the exact number. So we budgeted $8,000 for early design materials development, and so I think the 10,000 that you're talking about would extend that 8,000. We'll think about that as design 15, so we include that 10. Is that kind of in line with what you're thinking about?
We can talk more, but I think it's just, I think most of us throwing out information on our social media isn't gonna do anything without targeted ads. That is really the only way that you're gonna, in my perspective, get people to pay attention. Otherwise, it's gonna be a narrow world of people that know you and have an opinion already. But if we're trying to do some A/B testing with new audiences in our region, I think a solid budget focused on the digital. Again, as the comments before, so nothing beats in person, but as we try to build materials, I think a concrete budget as close to 10,000 focused on those ads would be more effective than us throwing it up on our Facebooks.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. A lot of our base audiences go well beyond, well beyond wildfire. And so you get a lot of people who weigh in who will say pollute the atmosphere with misinformation. You're a socialist, you're doing this, you're telling us what to do, who have no interest in this. They don't live in the zone, but they may be anti-government, anti-tax, or whatever, and that information gets into the atmosphere. And the people who really need to do it see that information too, right? So we've dealt with that. And so yeah, it's complicated.
And coming not from us as elected, but the East Bay Wildfire Coalition's channel. So it's not even like us, you're gonna say something and say, oh, what's this new?
The best messenger are firefighters and fire agents. We have learned, right?
Yeah. And
you don't need to test that very much. It's already established, but that's the other thing. It's how and it may be, look, we're a bunch of politicians, but the message of coming from the fire professionals and firefighters is, I think, one of the most effective messengers we have. And so we have to think about how you use the right messenger for that. So we could do our social media amplify a message from fire agency, and people trust their fire agency more than somebody else's. So it may be Kensington and El Cerrito, it's something a fire, Richmond fire, Akron fire. So I think that's something to be conscious about. We may segment it out where the messenger is the local fire agency.
Yeah, we'll have to look at in terms of the 10,000 on paid digital. So as we discussed, it's a huge area we're talking about, and 10,000 spread out would be like nothing. So we can talk about maybe we focus on one little area. Obviously, there's some politics if there about whose area we're looking at, but you could do some kind of testing there to see how that engagement works, and we could use it as potentially a case study for.
But your information could get picked up by the fire agency, in their channels to put out as well. So that the right, but the fire agency put this out. I don't know, like Berkeley Fire.
The test is one Cape County, Contra Costa, one and out.
Yeah, and you can use it as just like we were talking about, creating kind of a test case to show that this works in order to present for future grants. Hey, it's tested in this little community, and we got this amount of engagement, and whatever we want to do the metrics, like you can fund this at scale.
And I think the idea,
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that the A/B testing with digital, if we think about that $10,000 in terms of, yes, reaching folks, but also doing A/B testing within that, we can be a little more targeted at it, and that will give us a lot of fundings for future grant.
Okay. Yes.
I think after the state passes their regulations at the end of April, we'll have a much better idea. Berkeley's requirements are very extreme. I don't think you're going to see other jurisdictions going as far as Berkeley will. And so it may be a situation where there's less resistance because the requirements are not as stringent.
So we'll go to public comment in a second. So it sounds like what we're going to be doing is providing direction for the officers to work on the amendment to the contract, fleshing some of this out, all work on the switch on fire, and it has to then be approved by our fire board. So it may be that it doesn't need to come back here for a final approval, have to be approved actually. writing direction to have the officers finalize this and for this then to go to the fire district. So, so rats, and then they would go forward with the work once it gets that final fire district report, this college. So, yeah.
What happens if it's significantly more expensive to do implement all of those?
I think the goal is to keep it within this $50,000 to $60,000 range. I think that's the direction we're hearing, right? So this,
50, because that's what we previously
Yes.
approved as a body. We decided
right,
to
okay,
with-
within the 50, and right, and everybody get their dues in. Okay.
What is the relationship between the 25 that?
We'll explore. We'll work on that. I'll be on it,
and the
right.
50 that?
It's separate, but it would maybe be complementary. We'll have that discussion. I'll help facilitate that fire district. I'll facilitate that. Yeah, so yeah, that's a separate contract, but it would be, yeah. All right. So the direction, we can have this in a motion, but let me first ask for, is there any public comment at this site? Yeah.
Let's just stage open. Pointing out that several of you have said in specific cases that there are good examples, existing resources that can and should be incorporated. That's obvious, but one thing that's not as obvious from the conversation is that we have fire safe councils along the ridge, and we have been doing this for years. And most of what I've heard is about influencers, stakeholders, top down, got to do that, no question about it. But the argument I would make based on working on the ballot measure in Oakland, the fire zone, is we know what to do about enthusiasm. And we take all the talented communicators, and there are several of them in this room. And you might want to hear from some of us who've seen them work a crowd. I'm not kidding. Because they're listening, they're prepared, we've got some model people here. You also have some how-tos, really simple fact sheety things that we've been doing with defensible space and so on. Oakland Fire Safe Council is really good on this resource guide stuff. Berkeley Fire Safe Council is good sponge stuff. We've borrowed from them. Most of our stuff is like, please take it. We'd like a little credit. We invited Kensington to join us, but we saw you. So, El Cerrito, whatever. Point is that we're a bunch of a resource, a free resource of volunteers. And I think that the work that we've done in Oakland, our leadership would say that it's been helpful to them to have so many activated members.
Well, it sounds like I think some of their interviews are going to be with Fire Safe Council folks.
Well, I haven't heard an explicit approach to using, and there are several of us happy to give you contact information, happy to tell you what our talents are.
We'll make sure that they know who the Fire Safe Councils are. They can compete.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, that's exactly what I've been doing in Berkeley. I
yes,
the politicians are in our communications, and sometimes the firefighters are, but it's a lot of it's pictures of neighbors who are doing this and showing creative ways to apply with Sub-Zero. Definitely do want to center.
Public comment, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Jim Hansen, Richmond resident from the Hills, neighborhood council president, and conservation chair for the company that society spoke. Really engaging conversation. Thank you for moving ahead with education. I just want to address a couple of things. As also a homeowner, it feels overwhelming. And I heard a number of comments about keeping it simple. Watching the CAL FIRE comparison film. What I noticed and what I saw from the LA fires was wooden gates. And in this case, they had a shrub with right next to the wooden gate. It was somewhat of a, but anyway, it went right into the rafters. I think starting simple, which I've heard you all talk about here in Berkeley, can really help. So I just want to support that. We don't know where to get these alternative fences. There's a lot going on. Secondly, just my own experience and sense is that the best insurance is doing this work. And I never wanted to use my fire insurance. And just thirdly, just the bigger picture that we've looked at in the plant societies, we've seen 98% of the funding in California continue to go to wildland work. And I think we're learning there needs to be a better balance. And I think I just speak locally, if we can talk to our legislators, start to shift some of this $4 billion, which we find doesn't always do that much, to things like inspectors. Why don't we have a fully funded education program here, a BayREN that has technical information on fencing and all these kinds of things?
BayREN is for energy.
For energy, it's the same model. So anyway, I think there's these bigger funding issues which you've been focusing on brightly. And I just want to support what you're doing. And thank you for this.
Thank you. Other public comment? Robert, any online? Okay, yes.
Teresa Kennedy
Yeah.
from Caltrans, but just as before coming to Caltrans, I worked as, well, I am a landscape architect, but I was working in the private sector for mainly homeowners. For a design build company in Berkeley, actually. So, you know, our primary clients were, you know, the people that wanted to do painting, but decks, artworks, like any kind of outdoor sector. So I think to amplify your messaging, you know, to qualify landscapers as more like professionals like landscape architects and contractors who are licensed and getting permits from the cities. That could be a starting point to see who's actually doing that kind of work. And those are the people that might have money, be implementing it proactively. They want to be doing that work, it sounds like, usually community members, people want that resources. But from my own experience, yeah, the lack of resources for like, where the products are available. I think that's really important.
Yes. Yeah, I just want to emphasize the point that was just made. People that want to do work don't know where to turn. They need advice, and that's why part of the outreach effort needs to be with the handyman industry, because you got to put vents on your house and vents on your gutters, and with the landscape professionals, because people need to know how to make their house beautiful, keep their house beautiful in light of requirements that are coming down. So we need to talk to homeowners, but we also need to produce resources for them.
Other, yeah, public comment.
Hi, I'm Milvia. I work with State Coastal Conservancy. We have funded through the Alameda County Fire Department group that focuses on veg management, and it's a workforce development program. And we're also happy to talk about the resources.
Great. I work with Amy all the time. So I will we'll add you to our list. Thanks. Amy's your director. And I'm on the restoration. Yeah. So
okay.
We'll send this out. Okay.
There are no comments online.
Okay. So is there a motion to provide direction to amend this proposal based on the input provided here, and designate that the officers will finalize this and work with Contra Costa Fire as the fiscal agent for eventual contract approval? That's essentially.
So I'd like to make a friendly.
Yes.
And to stay within the budget.
Yes, it's within the $50,000. Yes. Motion.
So
second. Motion second. Okay. And I will work with the officers on the Fire so that it's a fire. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. No one voted. Okay. Thank you. With that, let's move. We are public comment for we already covered item A. Public comment for items not on the agenda. Okay, Robert.
Not at this time.
All right, item 10, board member comment. I will just start with making sure everybody gets the date of future meetings that was sent out to everybody, Robert. So
And we'll resend.
and I'll be back in El Cerrito. The next meeting is going to be on May 27th, Wednesday at 9 a.m. in El Cerrito, right? Okay. Board member comment?
I wanted to invite people to an emergency preparedness fair that my office is doing with Alameda County Fire Department. It's on Saturday, May 2nd, 10 to 1, and it will be at the Emeryville Community Center.
The Open Museum has a great special exhibition on indigenous practices of live burns. There's some history that includes a little bit of the 91 fires, but really focus on practices, traditions, science, the history, the culture. It's beautiful and also emotional. So encourage you to check it out.
Great. You can lead one of your famous walks for fire. Rodney, Rodney is a very good. You check him out. He does a lot of historic walks in San Francisco.
In Berkeley too.
And
so, actually tacking onto that last comment from the supervisor. I have a East Bay. It's called North Berkeley Rock Parks, and we go to Mortar Rock Park, which has got the mortar bowls, and we talk about the Ohlone in the burns that they did, and you know how that was how the landscape was managed back then, and how we have totally changed all that. So yeah, I as a tour guide, I try to work this sort of thing into my tours. I have other Berkeley tours where I mentioned Wildfire.
Great tour. When's next season?
When I'll talk to you on that. They got this scheduled. I do them through the Berkeley Path Wanderers Association, which I'm a huge fan of. And we're just about to schedule a couple in, I think in May or June. I think it might be June.
Yeah. Non-board member, former board member comments.
Speaking of landscapes, when you exit the elevator on the first floor, opposite the elevator is a panoramic photograph of what Berkeley looked like in 1923 when they had our fire. So please take note when you exit the elevator and take a look at the photograph. It's quite enlightening.
My brief comment is, I think, having been on the East Bay Mud Board during the fire, events like that, right, which ultimately placed an urgency under people to do a lot of things changed right after that fire. I remember that. And so we obviously don't want to get to that situation. And so I do think how we continue to remind people that it happened there, not that long ago. And I think the people who lived here and experienced it and remember it. I mean, I did in terms of the water system fail, right? It's been like that. It's since put in standby generators to pump water up into reservoirs. That was an improvement. So, but we're dealing with a whole generations of people who don't remember that. And so I think it is, how do you inspire this sense of urgency? We're not very good as a society, I think, in getting people to be proactive, even like on climate change, unless we show what the real impacts are in some visual way. So I think this movie is looking at visualizing what happened, including there is great footage from the Oak Hills fire, right? People leaving and so
building on that, I think one of the problems that we have in terms of changing behavior, which is really what we're trying to do, is that we're a very individualistic society. And what we're talking about is actually community partnering, not just house partnering.
Right.
In order for this to work, we have to have whole neighborhoods do it. You have to reach an 80% threshold. And so the challenge is to change the mindset. How people feel about their property and their neighbor.
And hearts.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, thank you. All right, with that, thanks, great meeting in this more intimate environment. It's actually nice having a table with back and forth, almost better than so maybe we could set that up in El Segundo. So.
I'm just a hot.
Oh, here, wow.
Oh, meeting, but
wow.
it's pretty cool. But I know I'm sending it.
We are adjourned. Robert, did you fight it or do you want to write back to the other?